recently, a U.S. company contacted our law firm seeking legal advice. So the U.S. company has transferred deposit of $20,000 to a Vietnamese company to buy the goods. After the deposit had been transferred, but the Vietnamese company failed to deliver goods as agreed. So I think that's a very common situation when the foreign company do business with Vietnamese company, right? So in your experience, can you name some the reason why the dispute has arisen, something like that case I just mentioned?
I think not just that case, right? Not that client. I remember that U.S. company emailing us asking for legal advice and legal support for the litigation to transfer the goods to them, right?
Yeah.
They paid 20,000 USD already in advance to the Vietnamese company to buy. I think they bought, they tried to buy shoes from Vietnam, yeah. But the Vietnamese company failed to deliver the goods, even though the US company already paid the deposit. I think not just that case, we have encountered many cases like that with companies from many countries, foreign companies like in the US, China, Europe. We got a lot of requests from them, but in many cases we could not help them because the deposit, the payment, the advance payment that they pay to the Vietnamese company is not very high. For example, the case of 20,000 USD, quite small, and the litigation fee is a bit high. So
lawyer fee,
sometimes lawyer fee and court fee,
yeah,
or arbitration fee is a bit high. So sometimes they could not follow the case. I think the reason why this happened is there are several reasons. The first reason is because of scam. I think there are scammers. They open companies and then they sell products to, not sell, but they advertised to foreign companies that they are selling products. And once they get the payment, the advance payment, they disappear. They just cut off the contact, right? So the foreign company cannot contact them. They could not get the goods and they lose some money. They lose the advance payment. I think it's not just in Vietnam. This issue is very common in many countries. I remember watching some news that some Vietnamese company was scammed by companies in the Europe too, right? In Italy. I remember some news saying that some Vietnamese company signed contract and paid deposit to an Italian companies, but they could not get the goods and they lost deposit. And it's happened all over the world, right? The scamming industry is a big problem for all the countries, not just Vietnam. The second reason is that some Vietnamese company, they are not very trustworthy. They are not. Sometimes they cannot provide the goods, but they still try to sign the contract with the foreign company to get the payment first, and they think that they will try to provide the goods later. They get the money first, and then they think about providing the products later, right? Maybe they don't have the real capacity, but they just agree and get the payment because they think that foreign companies, they are in a foreign country, so it's difficult for foreign company to
sue
to take any action against them. And it's not just common between Vietnamese company and foreign companies, but also between Vietnamese company and other Vietnamese company in Vietnam.
It's quite common.
It's quite common. So I think those are the two main reasons why.
Yeah. So based on your experience, how to minimize the legal risk if the foreign company they want to do business with the local company in Vietnam?
I think the first thing that a foreign company need to do when they want to do business with Vietnam, with a company in Vietnam, if this is the first time that they want to do business with a company in Vietnam, I think the first thing that they should do is they need to hire a lawyer, or if possible, they should come to Vietnam to meet the Vietnamese company and to see for themselves whether this company has a real capacity to provide the products, whether this company is trustworthy or not, and they can also hire a lawyer to check on this company, or hire some other services to check on this company, whether this company is reliable or not, and is there any lawsuits against them in the past. Maybe they can find information in the internet, but because they are not Vietnamese, so it might be difficult for them to do some research on the company that they want to do business with. So they might hire a lawyer to check on.
You mean legal due diligence, right?
Not exactly legal due diligence, because if we do, it's like some light legal due diligence. They can just check in general.
Yeah.
Because in fact we have some cases where foreign companies, when after they was breached by a Vietnamese company, after they got cheated by a Vietnamese company, they come to Vietnam and they see that in the location where that Vietnamese company is registered, there's nothing there, right?
Just so the company just exists on the paper.
Yeah, just on the paper.
It's not real company. They have no business, no manufacturing, no stuff, and
no actual business.
Have nothing.
There's nothing.
But maybe exit in the paper they have a big, a huge amount of charter.
Capital.
Capital. So maybe they hire a luxury office in the skyscraper, but on the paper when you come to that company, you just have no one in this company.
So if possible, they should, because many foreign companies, they try to contact Vietnamese company. They see on their website, right? They contact them via WhatsApp or some other channel of contact, and after some discussion, they just agree to sign a contract and agree to pay. And it sounds naive, but actually many companies they did that, because in our experience we have many clients having the same issue, right? So in that case, I think they should be willing to pay a bit of money to lawyer, or maybe some other agency, some outsourcing agency, to do some investigation or a bit of due diligence about the company that they want to do business with. So that is the first thing that they should do to minimize the risk. I think the second thing is that when they sign a contract with the Vietnamese company, they should do an LC, right? A payment method by LC. The payment mechanism by LC. LC means letter of credit, which simply means that when they pay, they don't pay directly to that Vietnamese company. They pay to a escrow account, to an account. They pay to their bank. For example, a U.S. company, they should pay to their bank account in the U.S. and their bank in the U.S. would keep that money and tell the Vietnamese company bank in Vietnam that after the Vietnamese company can provide enough documents, for example, document proving that they already delivered the goods, then the bank in Vietnam, the bank in the US can release the money to the bank in Vietnam, and the bank in Vietnam can release the money to the Vietnamese company. So that is very safe,
Yeah.
right? That is very safe. So it can cost a bit of money, but it's very safe. So try to do that, right? That is the second thing that they need to do for minimizing the risk. And I think the third thing that they need to do is that they need to have a good contract, right? A good drafted contract that provides them with full protection, so
Yeah.
that if dispute happen, they are protected.
Regarding about the drafted contract, yeah. Now turning to this case, we have started communication today. So, in your experience, in order to protect the buyer's interest, what the specific provision of the contract should be given pay attention, and how should they draft it?
I think the first and the most important provision that they should have in the contract, and they should pay attention in the contract, especially in the sales and purchase of goods contract, is that the provision about payment, right? About payment. So they should specify the payment in multiple installments. They should not pay everything at once, right? You split the payment as much as possible, as many as possible, so that you minimize the risk of losing the whole amount. So you can just pay some deposit first. You can agree to pay some deposit first, and then pay another amount after you got some deliver of goods, right? Some the Vietnamese company deliver goods, then you pay the remaining amount. At least 2 times payments. That is the first clause that they should pay attention to. The second is the termination or cancellation of contract. They should have the right to terminate or cancel the contract if they delay, if the Vietnamese company delay on providing the goods, right? So they should have the right to terminate or cancel the contract and get back the advance payment, right? That is very important. And also the penalty clause, you can put on the penalties,
Yeah.
right? And then the compensation clause on compensation, and there's one very important clause is the governing law, right? So because this is an international transaction between foreign companies and a Vietnamese company, so the law of Vietnam allow the party to choose the law of Vietnam to govern the contract, or to choose the law of the other country to govern the contract. So if you think that the law of Vietnam is suitable for you, you might choose the law of Vietnam, or you can also choose the law of your own country to govern the contract. But keep in mind that when you choose it also depends on the court or the arbitration that you choose to resolve the dispute, if there will be a dispute. That is the dispute resolution clause. And in the dispute resolution clause, you can either choose the court of Vietnam or an arbitration center in Vietnam, or the court in your country or arbitration center in your country. But it's very important to be noted that later, if you sue the Vietnamese company, you will need the verdict, right? The decision of the court or the award of the arbitration center to be recognized in Vietnam in order for it to be enforced in Vietnam. For example, in the case that you mentioned,
Yes.
yeah, if they choose the foreign arbitration center or the court in the US, I think for our case they choose the
Yes, in many cases, we have client they want to our law firm to provide the service to recognize a foreign verdict into Vietnam.
yeah.
But it's very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. For the case that you mentioned, the US company and the Vietnamese company buying the purchase contract,
Yeah.
we saw that they choose the arbitration center in the US, right? And in that case, they need to sue in the US. And I think the attorney fee, right, and the arbitration fee in the US is very high. And then after that, you will need to bring that arbitration award to Vietnam to be recognized by the court in Vietnam in order to enforce against the Vietnamese company. And that is very costly. So it's nearly impossible, right, to do, because maybe even the payment that you pay for the attorney and the arbitration fee in the US is already higher than the 20,000 USD that you pay to the Vietnamese company. So I think for most of the case, I would recommend the foreign company to choose either the court in Vietnam or arbitration center in Vietnam, because it will be easier. Otherwise, you will have to hire lawyer in your country to do the lawsuit in there, and then you need to hire a lawyer in Vietnam to support you to recognize your the decision in Vietnam and to enforce that in Vietnam.
They pay fee 2 times.
Yeah, pay double fees, and maybe the fee in your country is higher than in Vietnam. I think the main clauses, but I think all clauses matters, right? So you need to find a lawyer or a law firm to support you with that, especially if this is the first time that the foreign company do business with a Vietnamese partner. You should definitely find a lawyer or a law firm to support you with reviewing or drafting the contract.
Yeah, I think that's the best choice. But as you share, just for prevent a breach contract purpose. But if the disputes arise already, and can you give in your experience, can you give some solution as well as the usual process to resolve that just matter?
Yeah. In Vietnam, if the party choose like the court or arbitration center in Vietnam, we can help them, right? If they choose the court or arbitration center in foreign country, we cannot support them. But if they choose, if in the contract, the governing, the dispute resolution, the dispute resolution clause specifying that any dispute would be resolved by a court in Vietnam or by an arbitration center in Vietnam, we can support them. I think the first thing that we can help, we normally do is that we will request the Vietnamese party to have a discussion, to do some consultation, to have negotiation, right? We represent the foreign company to negotiate with the Vietnamese company and to try to help them get back the payment or get back what they deserve to get, the payment, the penalties, compensation, etc. By negotiation first, right? And we have successfully helped many clients doing that, right? And if negotiation failed, we will help them to sue to the court or to the arbitration center. So that is what we normally do. But I think it's better to prevent than wait for the dispute happen and then you will try to sue.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I remember you mentioned two reasons for the foreign company to do business with Vietnam, they lose deposit money. First reason mean on the contractual breach. Yes, but the second reason mean a criminal case. So the seller they fraud the buyer. So if in the case the buyer was fraud by the seller, do you have the method, the different way to help them to get back money? Or
Yeah, of course. If it's a scam, then it's a fraud, then we can support them to report to the police, right? We will represent them to collect all the evidence. We can also try to collect more evidences, and then provide to the police to make a petition, right? Make a claim for a crime against the scammer. From time to time, it can be a bit difficult because it will take time, and also it could be difficult because the scammer they will try to try to disguise, and it's a bit difficult. So I think prevention is very important. What do you think?
I agree with you, but maybe something different. I think if have the side of the criminal, we should make the petition to the police first to make pressure. I don't mean threatening the seller, but just make pressure enough. If they're scared, maybe they're willing to repay the money or pay the compensation and something like that. But if they have no pressure enough, we just to sue to the court for a civil case or commercial case, maybe they do care. Because it takes time, they have no pressure to pay money back. Because in my experience, I see at least one civil case from 6 months to 12 months, just average.
It's not easy to do civil lawsuits, right?
Yeah.
Especially sometimes the company doesn't really have money, and then even we win the lawsuit, we cannot recover the amount.
Yes.
Right? So normally, if there is criminal components, right? If there is some sign of a crime, we would always try to make a complaint to the police, right? To request for investigation against them, or at least discuss with them and bring up the possibility of a criminal charge against the other company. So there would be a higher chance to recover the amount if they think that there can be a possibility that a criminal charge will be imposed upon them.
Yeah, I think so. Well, thank you for your sharing, Lord David, today. From your sharing, I learned a lot of knowledge about commercial. Yeah, it's about a contract.